Right now, about to bring to the stage a DJ from one of the most influential groups in hip hop. Something about these cats that we all know. They have a place in our heart. You know what I'm saying? And without further ado, I want to bring to the stage Mr. Muhammad Ali Shaheed Muhammad.
Peace. How y'all doing? Good.
Yes, yes.
What's happening, Cognito?
Good, man. Good to see you, brother.
Happy to be here.
Word up, word up. So I'm gonna take it back to 1989. As y'all can tell by the gray hairs on my chin, I was about 19 years old around that time, working for a record store out in DC. And the store I worked at, we didn't actually carry hip-hop vinyl. So I had to go to a competing record store to actually buy my hip-hop wax. And I remember going through, just digging, just looking through stuff, and back in them days, you know, it's before MP3s, clearly, that I would just buy things just based off of the record cover alone. Sometimes I didn't even know who the group was, but it might just be something about the cover that made me buy it. And I picked up a 12-inch, and the 12-inch was Description of a Fool by A Tribe Called Quest. And I went home and I played that record, and I played that record, and I played that record so much. It was something about it, not me not even knowing the Gil Scott-Heron reference, not know, because back then we didn't care where it was sampled from. To be honest with you, I thought a lot of the hip-hop stuff that I was hearing at that time was like, these are the most incredible musicians ever. Like, oh my God, like, whoa. So going back to working at Kent Mill was the record store. I'm the only black guy working there. All the rock people that worked there, they would get all the rock promos, and there would be all these rap promos that they just passed down to me. And one day I get a promo for People's Extensive Travels in the Path of Rhythms. And when I tell you I felt so good having that and knowing I was the first kid in my school to have that joint, that album changed my life in a way that a lot of hip-hop records have changed my life. But it's something about that record that these cats were talking to me. They were talking my language, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, that was the first time when I felt, I'd listened to other hip-hop, I'd listened to Run DMC and stuff of that nature, but they always seemed like older cats to me, which they probably were. But these were the cats that were talking to me. Like, I felt like I'm having a conversation with these dudes, and I never knew who they were. You know what I'm saying? So, thank you. Like, straight up and down, you know what I mean?
Thank you. First of all, is the sound person close by? I'm extremely soft-spoken, so can you cut me up?
Turn my mic up.
Can you guys hear me in the back? If not, let them know. You can hear me? Okay. I just want to make sure, because we won't be doing this again. This is it for me. But thank you. I don't really know what to say to that. It's a lot of years later, and to hear you share your experiences is touching, and it's just kind of still bugged out after all the years and all of the records and all of the cities, to know that what we were doing as dreamers and striving for something really affected people. You're here, you say you're from DC. I never knew that. From my introduction to you, I don't recall if it's like New York or Atlanta, but I've seen you through the years, and you're here in LA, and I know that there are many people in LA that maybe here right now, and you're not from LA, but you're you know, it's touched you, and we're still global and together. So it's just kind of bugged out. There's a whole lot of things that I'm dancing through my head. But thank you for, and to everyone here for allowing us to be involved in your life like that. It's real. Music is intimate. It really is. And I'm still just very appreciative to hear something like that. Yeah.
So I don't know who actually lost their wallet in El Segundo. But did you ever find it?
Gotta get it. Got to get it.
Yes. I'm gonna go into a joint, man, that really just, it set off that album. You know what I mean? And come to find out years later that this is the man who actually produced it. How old were you when you made that beat?
Oh, wow. I'm tripping on other things, you guys. I guess that's what we're here for, to see what's going to peel this open, right? Before I even answer that, I just got, the Creator is amazing. Sends blessings all the time. Like the fact that you're sitting right there, just the way you popped up in here.
Shout out to Maceo in the house.
Shout out to Maceo Plug 3.
Gets the whole caboodle.
It's just like, I often don't think that the Creator has a sense of humor, but I'm starting to believe it a little bit. And, so the fact you're sitting there, it means a lot to me. And I knew that we were coming to this, but just the fact that he's sitting right there and I say that because, like, I'm listening to that, and I'm hearing actually Africa's voice in the background from the Jungle Brothers. So it's just like, wow. I'm thinking of Mr. Long sliding me that drum break. I'm thinking of a whole bunch of different things, and that, even the opening was somewhat controversial in the studio to jump it off because it's like so just kind of like nerdy and whatnot, but it was to simplify the beginning of A Tribe Called Quest and being like, the babies, the offspring of the Jungle Brothers. So that particular song it's very monumental for me, and it set off the whole record. And just hearing Q-Tip's, his voice still is just like nasally, but just smooth, and it's like just you want to just consume it, and his cadence is crazy. We were 18 when we did that. Yeah. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. And thank you for not getting Q-Tip any Sudafed to like clear up that nasally thing. You know what I'm saying? And to think back, like, we're talking 88, 89.
Yes.
At that time, and I know because you were 70s, 1970?
I was born in 70. Yes.
All right, I'm a 1970 kid too. And I know in 1989, 88, like, I loved music. And I thought about making music, but the way y'all were creating music in New York City, being the birthplace of hip hop, like, at 18, 19 years old, like, what was going through your head? Like, what is it about that city that helped form the creative landscape that you had at that time?
New York City is it's a different type of city than it was back then when we were kids, you know, in comparison to like Los Angeles. And one thing that I've learned from coming here throughout the years is that it's just a different culture. You have like this really small city and you have like 8 million people from all different ethnic backgrounds. And so there's an air of progressiveness to it. But at the same time, you know, there's certain aspects that are covered and are oppressive. And it's kind of, so it's a weird dynamic and a paradox for that to exist, where you have this sort of sophistication and a sort of advanced way of being communal and really embracing. You know, you can have neighborhoods where it could be mostly Italian, but you got, you know, blacks and Puerto Ricans in there, and everybody's kicking it. And it's so much happening there, and you know, it's kind of hard to really explain, but it's just this tension that existed because so much has come through New York City that may seem to be on the cutting edge of this sound, you know, of just life in general, of the civil rights movement was different in New York than it was in the South. So it's just all these different things, and you have these structures of buildings where most of the country things are spread out, and you got space at least. Like, you know, you got space. If you can do this and not touch anyone, that feels good. Like on an airplane, we can't do that. In New York City, when we're living in these tenements, it's tension. So it's just kind of like I said, a weird kind of paradox between the two. You have like financial mammoths, you know, like just across the bridge, but in these tenements and in these like squeezed up buildings, and you know, not neighborhoods without grass, neighborhoods without trees. It's the concrete jungle. It just creates a certain sort of a environment for life, and I guess it came out in the music. You know, I think when we were making our music, which was different than, I want to say, like the hip hop generation before us, which for me is only like a 4-year, kind of like 4 to 7 year kind of span, and it was way different than that. Like everyone was coming with James Brown was killing it, and we were kind of like on that vibe way early, so we weren't really embraced coming with these sorts of grooves that we were coming with, only because it was different. But when you have a vision and you're determined, you push through that. And I think that's what is evident in hip hop as it began. It was through not having that the art form was created, and still persevering and trying to reach out and express the oppression that's happening in the ghettos, you know, coming together to try to escape it. You know, what Africa Bambaataa did by bringing, you know, kids together to just stop like wilding out, stop robbing banks, you know, like find some other outlet. And so with what we were doing with Tribe, and I know same thing with De La, and I know you're here to tell your story. It was the same sort of thing where you're breaking through the kind of like mundane and just what you're told you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do, and knowing somewhere in heart and mind that no, there's supposed to be more than this. And so it came out in the music.
There was something else that happened around that time that was kind of unheard of. Uh, y'all released a VHS cassette. Why y'all laughing? Y'all know what a VHS is, right? Yeah. Okay, all right. Don't make me feel too old. Dang. But that cassette was tour footage of y'all on tour with the Jungle Brothers overseas. And this is off the first album.
Yeah, I think, with not having a lot of information on, I guess in hip hop, like it was so new and how to do things was so new. You didn't really have a blueprint, but we kind of, in a way, I'm going to use this word and not to the full meaning of the word, but we idolized groups like the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, and we had learned that Jimi Hendrix kind of went to Europe and kind of like did a jump off before things kind of came back here to the States and caught this wave. And we were fortunate to have certain people in the music industry kind of pay attention to us because of the Jungle Brothers, because of De La Soul, and the success that those two groups had to want to, see us be catapulted in a proper way. And we were like, let's do something crazy. Like, let's go to London. Like the only time I or Q-Tip had ever been there was just to shoot a Jungle Brothers video, which was, we were there maybe 6 hours. We were on a plane in some hotel that was like the size of this couch, and then shipped back off to the U.S. And I remember the A&R to this day. He's like running a show at Sony right now. And I always had a grudge against him because he treated us so badly. But Me too. I remember. And it's nothing personal to him now, but just completely understanding now what his job was. But we just wanted to go to Europe and have it documented. And it was interesting because, like, a good thing, like with cameras, you don't have to show everything. And in France in particular, we were opening, I think, was KRS on that bill? I think KRS was on that bill. And there wasn't really a warm reception for A Tribe Called Quest. I don't even think the first album was out yet. So we were, even here in LA, I have to admit, like when we first came here, there was not a lot of love for us.
Hence why you lost your wallet and never got it back.
Is that what it was? This is an inside Californian joke. Let's get these dudes right here. Got them. From Brooklyn, I should have saw it coming. I just missed it completely. But that's what the deal was with that VHS. It's like my mind instantly said Laserdisc when you said VHS. And even,
you have it on Laserdisc?
Yeah, I had to join on Laserdisc. But it was really cool because like we could.
That's pre-Blu-ray for all y'all.
We were able to look back at what we had accomplished, and it gave us more of a drive, a determination of really like just, hit it hard and to bring our art form, our side, our story, our look to the people. And I think that it was good. It's like, New York is a very tough place, and lots of cities in America is tough when it comes to embracing something new in music. But it's just something about Europe, like they just take it, like they will ask you questions and really just go deep into your art. And you need that sometimes to really, really see what's inside and see if there's something that you were missing or that you were overinflated about, So I think it was excellent for us to come back home and take that experience and tighten up our stage game, you know.
So were you a DJ before Tribe? Were you like DJing your, freshman dance or homecoming?
Yeah, not the freshman dance, but yes, I was DJing actually in my neighborhood, and I got a little bit of a reputation, which was cool. There were a lot of it was actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were like 6 of us on the block, Decatur Street, Brooklyn. Got to put it out there, and I was the only one who didn't have a set of turntables. I had a mixer. My mom, she saved up enough to get me this realistic mixer made by Radio Shack. Yeah, oh, it's right. I love my mom. Oh, exactly. And and I treasured that. But in addition, to that, I had like these little kind of like wasn't like Fisher Price, but it was just like it was not an official DJ setup. And so there was some guys on the block, specifically this guy named Mark. And his parents had dough, and they gave Mark everything. And so we used to pile up into Mark's basement and just like battle. And I would save up my money and buy records. This other kid named Reg, he bought mad records. And Mark, and his other guy named Keith. Keith had equipment and records, but because I didn't have the full, like, for real DJ setup, like when I was on their set, I was just like very much focused. Like I'm in here till their parents kick us out. Like we got 5 hours to get it in, and I was just really focused on learning what it was I needed to learn, and go home and sit there with my realistic mixer and go, Ma, you really got to get me some turntables, like belt drive turntables were the up and coming. And I have to say, I mean, if you're any DJs out here in the room, you guys know about the belt. If you're young enough to appreciate those. It was really not the best turntables compared to the Technique 1200, which is the master of turntables. But trying to explain that to your mom, it's just like, like trying to explain an MP3 player to my great grandmother. Like, it's just, what are you talking about? And so she did her best. She really did. But all of that, just caused me to really focus. And when I did get I didn't remember what she got me. She got me something. It was a little step up. It wasn't the belt drive joints that everyone else had. But I continued to just stay in my room and practice. So yeah, I got a little bit of a reputation in the neighborhood for DJing. And I don't even know how Q-Tip discovered that, because if you haven't seen the documentary, he and I met in junior high school, and he had said to me, I got this crew. I heard you're pretty good. Why don't you make me a mixtape? I was like, okay. So I made the tape, and I don't remember what I put in there, but I had mad records, so he liked it, and that's how things kind of formed. Like, we formed the group then.
Word. Now, at that time, the DJ was a very integral part of the creative process in some of the most classic joints of hip-hop of that time. And now it seems that that's kind of gone to the wayside. Not a lot of rap records that we hear today, like the DJ doesn't get that shine. But back then, the cuts were almost as important as the lyrics, almost as important as the beat on a lot of songs. And I'm gonna play a joint right now that to me, I think I know the cuts. I knew the cuts before I actually knew the lyrics to this song. Where do you think it's gone? Like, what happened to that? Where did it go? Like, where did it go?
I wish I had the answer to that. Honestly, I can only guess that technology somewhat played a role into the shift of DJs and other people making music, and I think somewhat like music, it just evolves. It happens, and there's certain people who continue to display the core of the root so that something's not lost in human communication. And it really doesn't matter what instrument you play, like at some point you get away from some other important aspect. And for hip hop, that's the foundation. So it's kind of, it's upsetting to know that there's not enough of a emphasis on that sort of thing. I want to shout out DJ Rhetmatic here because
Beat Junkies, world famous.
He's certainly keeping it alive, and there are people who keep it alive. I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that question. I don't know if I have the answer for it. I myself, I get to a point where even when I'm making music, I'm like, you gotta put something on it. And I'm like, what? I don't want to overdo it, because at some point, like, I want to say like mid '90s, you would hear rubs on everything, like everything, even a commercial that didn't have like a hip hop background. It was just like the rubs, the kick drum rub, and it just got to a point. It was like, is this what it's become? So I tend to have this challenge of not doing what people expect or want, and that's probably my own internal struggle, and maybe some other DJs and producers out there have that. But I'm thinking about when you asked that question, and I have like Barry White in my head, and I don't know why, but I think because like if Barry White was in our golden era age, he probably would have been a DJ. James Brown would have been a DJ. Miles would have been a DJ. So I don't think that there's too much of a departure. It's just a matter of how being a DJ is being applied. There's like certain type of blends, certain type of mixes. There's turntablism, like there's different sub factors, or I don't know what word to use, that encompass being a DJ. And I think it is being applied in hip hop for certain people, and it's still being pushed.
So we're gonna push it along.
Oh wait, I just thought about it.
He found the answer.
I just thought about it. You know what happened? Rozelle is scratched. That's what happened. I'm just teasing because I love them. And then, I sincerely, it was just a joke. They are dope. And, you would hear something Rozelle did, and it's like, yo, I can't do that. And it would mess you up, So, I don't know. All right. I'm done.
Word, that's what's up. So, you not only produced joints for and during your tribe era, but you've done some classics that cats probably don't even know you did. I'm gonna play a joint right now. That's probably gonna mess a lot of y'all's heads up to even know that he did this beat. How? Yo, that was my joint.
Thank you.
What was the? How was that break? Like, what was it at that point when you clearly you were making beats for your own crew, but then you go outside of the crew and start doing joints? Like,
Good question. It was more to strengthen the crew.
'cause they kind of came out. Like they kind of came out, kind of how y'all did under Jungle Brothers and De La, and they weren't necessarily part of Native Tongue, but they were kind of an extension of.
Yeah, people, they were definitely an extension. It seemed like when the Fushnikins had come, it seemed like a couple of decades behind us, even though it really wasn't, maybe 4 or 5 years. But for me, it was just like, Tribe is growing and building, and to me, that was just a matter of continuing to build up the brand. And so, that's why it says produced by a tribe called Quest. It was just to build up the brand. And to,
And were y'all thinking in that manner? Like it seems like that's how a lot of things are being done today. Like marketing wise, people are looking at what they're doing musically and they're creating their brand before they've even manufactured anything. You know what I'm saying? So at that time, is that what y'all were thinking? Like,
yeah, we were still fresh and new. Like so much to the point that we would drive our managers crazy because we didn't want to go on the road. Like for us, we knew it was all about the music. The music is the most important thing. And if you get the music right, then you can always go out, and deliver and touch people and have that sort of experience. But if the music isn't correct, then it's like everything that you're doing is for nothing. So that was more of, I think, us really establishing our culture of saying, like, we have to put music out. We have to just stay in the studio and record. And there was a lot that we wanted to do with the brand. Certain things were realized at that time, and certain things was just like innately moving one foot in front of the other. It's going to get you somewhere. You're not sure where, but the only way you're going to get there is if you do that. And they say that the hardest step in the 1,000-mile journey is the first step. So that's what that was. Just trying to strengthen the brand and move it in places that we could only dream of, like where it is now. Like the success that artists have now, like that's what we were pushing for. That's what we were striving for. To see the type of stage that Kanye even delivers. Like we were talking about those sorts of things. Again, going back to the bands that we studied, looking at, the Beatles, who to us were the ultimate band because they got everything, that they wanted and dictated to their record company to the extent that they became their record company. Their managers, like really, it was them. Something that we also learned from De La, like they really early on empowered themselves with like aligning themselves with a strong manager. And it's just certain things that you watch people around you do. We watched certain things that Jungle was doing and how they got the Warner Brothers deal, and that was like massive, major. It's just all these little elements that you try to use to get you to that big dream, you know. So like the stage that, like I said, Kanye had, like we were talking about, that's what we want. You know, we want that kind of understanding from the people who were pushing our music, and they really didn't get it. So our entire dream didn't come to fruition, but it was the start, and that's the most important thing.
So you bring up record labels. You also had a stint as an A&R. And tell us about that experience. Like,
that experience was that was a challenging one internally, because, like, you know, we have this creative thing going where it's about making the music is important, but at the same time we're building a brand, and fighting the record companies seemed to be like our everyday. And I thought that the best way for us to really have an understanding and to advance ourselves beyond these obstacles that we were having with the record company would be to go work for a record company. And a friend of mine said, "Hey, Quincy Jones is looking for an A&R." And I was like, "For real? How do I get in?" And I had to have a job interview. 2, in fact. And that was a real learning experience, because, again, it was kind of like separating from the recording just a little bit, not that much. I was in the studio every day, but just having to kind of like separate myself to understand what this whole corporate structure was about and how to get things done. Because Q-Tip and I wanted to sign our own artists and put them out. Like Vinia Mojica was like one of the artists that we were like, she was like #1 in the chamber for us to really get that cracking. But we needed to have a real know-how. And so I did that, and it was real corporate. It was real corporate. You have to understand, and I think, I don't know how much time we have, but like this is probably for me the one thing that I really want to convey to all of the musicians here, is that, not even musicians, just whatever it is you're doing in life, like when you have an idea, like making music or forming a business, and you form alliances and partnerships, you have, I think, maybe this unspoken interaction and part of the relationship that we're here together, we talked about this thing together, so we're moving together for this particular thing. But people have their own agendas. And it can be extremely frustrating if you're not aware of the agenda, if you're not aware of the language of the environment that you're in. And it doesn't matter what type of relationship it is. If you don't know the language that the person is speaking, there's going to be a point where you're looking at each other like, huh, what, what? I don't understand. Or one person may feel offended only because they don't speak the language, and you just did something that completely like just violated whatever it is that they live and stand for. So
Protocol is what that's that corporate term,
protocol. So word. So I was in an environment that I thought that I understood the language, and I did not. So when a good friend who happened to have been a publicist for the group, Layla Turkin, passes me a Black Eyed Peas tape, and I'm like, yo, let's sign this. And they're like, don't get that. Or when Corey Glover, who is like the lead singer for Living Colors, breaking off doing his solo joint, I'm like, yo, let's get that. And they're like, nah. When you hear that Common is about to break away from Relativity and you want to be in there, and I met with Common like, yo, what do you need to get out of the situation? He put it on the table, yo, let's go get that. No. And you start to look at the environment and go, what's going on? Am I not speaking the language? Like, I have faith in the understanding for, I'm choosing my words cautiously, obviously.
I know.
So it becomes somewhat disheartening. And depending on the cause that you're in and what you really believe, like you thought like everyone was here and how you're going hard, it can really like just knock the wind out of you for a minute and you're just like completely passed out and unconscious. And that's what kind of happened with that situation. And here it is, like I'm battling with my brothers, like I need to do this for the us situation. And then that's the kind of environment that I'm in. It's like two struggles. It was like 96, 97 Beast Rhymes and Life album. Like there was a lot going on at that time. And languages were just, in a lot of situations, we were all speaking different languages. So it came out in the music, and those other people went on to be superstars. So also the Neptunes, because they were just popping off, and I was trying to secure them for the label to just be in-house producers. And I remember what one of my bosses said, as long as you are first to the party, it doesn't matter. And that's the record company, at that time, the record company kind of mentality. I don't know if he said that to make me feel better, but I believe like, I don't care, like being first to the situation to finding an artist is not really important. It's like I believe in these artists and these people. I believe I'm in a house that understands music and is really trying to push forth the art form and the culture and all these things. And you have an artist-driven record company owned by an artist. So it's a huge wake-up call that even though that's the case, there's a protocol. It's kind of like, I've never been locked up, but I have several friends who've been locked up. They know my heart, my mind. They know how strong of a person that I am, and they're like, Shah, when you get indoors, the rules are different. You will be challenged. So it's no different, you know, in life and where we are now. And you really learn some things. So I learned a lot in being in that situation, and I'm very thankful that they hired me. I was up against someone else who, he would have gotten a job, and I think he would have taken the losses in stride because he worked for another company and he was cool. But for me, I needed that job to just really strengthen me for the other things that were about to happen. So, and like I said, all those guys went on to be superstars, and I could just sit back and go, yep, could have signed them. Yep, superstar. Mad money. Icons, shaking hands with presidents. Okay.
Well, you seem to get through that process during that time period pretty well, because from around that time, I guess after Love Movement, you started doing some more outside production, and you did something that sounded like this.
Thank you.
that transition, going from doing the type of hip hop that you were doing to working with live musicians, and you went on to do so many other joints, Mary J. Blige, doing remixes for Scritti Politti out of London, old 80s cats, you know what I'm saying? Maroon 5, like doing all kinds of stuff, you know what I mean? Like you just grown on that level. Like, how was that? Hey, man. Thank you for the segue.
Sorry.
You also went on to do a group with some incredible cats. Raphael Sadiq, Tony, Dawn Robinson from En Vogue. Y'all created Lucy Pearl. Talk about that experience and just going from one group that was at that status that they were to doing a whole nother genre of music in a way.
That whole process, again, just thinking about the creator and just creator's movement and blessings, really is just, it started back when I was a kid. My mom listened to a lot of different music, and that always stayed with me, and it always pushed me to be open. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, but my mom would send me away to camps far away just so I can get out of the hood, and I didn't like her much for that at the time. But my mom, in her wisdom, understood that there was more to the neighborhood and the streets of Brooklyn, and she wanted me to experience and be exposed to different things. And so that whole kind of mixture of movement of different artists is just the culmination of that. My mom really doing her job, thank you, Mom, to expose me to the world and educating me that there's different people, different experiences, and just to try to be open to it. You may have your own belief system and own ideas and foundation of what you're supposed to be, how you should move, but just to be open to it. And the one beautiful thing about music is I found that when I don't understand other people, music is a language that I understand. It just resonates with me. Even, if there are no words on there, there's, chords and the accompaniment and or arranging of certain instruments just on a frequency level, it touches us. It's some sort of electric kind of interaction. So, and I leave myself open to that. So the D'Angelo thing, he's an incredible singer, and even D is a crazy hip-hop head. And his music is just hip-hop to me, period, point blank, with that voice of his on top of it. And Scritti Politti, you're funny, from the 80s, yeah. Because I had Scritti Politti records when I was a kid.
Perfect Way was a joint.
So when I got that call, I was like, for real? Like, Perfect Way was the joint. And I'm like, what am I going to do with it? I always have this nervous factor when I get calls. I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm going to mess this up. This is the worst. They should have never called me, like, never. And, the creator does what the creator does. Like, even Brown Sugar was a complete accident. We were working on something completely different that D and I had picked out. And I've been a Mac user for 24 years. And my Mac, I've never touched a PC. I've heard the stories about the bugs, but I was having issues in the studio. I thought there were actually ghosts in the room, because this one particular room in Battery, the C room, like things just happen in there. And I had learned from Raphael Sadiq and working with him early on, working with the Tonys, always like they kept tape running. So I had kept tape running. I was just like, man, You know, we're wasting money. This guy's sitting here, he's playing his keyboard. Like, when is this cat gonna get his business together? And I'm looking at the engineer. He's clueless because I'm using equipment that they were not using. And I embrace technology, so I'm into buying stuff and trying it out, and so it was really all on me to fix this program. And even talking about programs and stuff, like, it was just too early in the game. Like, now it's natural, everyone uses Logic, Pro Tools, Cakewalk, and all the other ones. But back then it was just early, and stuff wasn't working. And D started playing his one bass line, and I was like, "What is that?" And he was like, "I don't know. I'm just waiting for you to finish." And in 15 minutes, the song was done because I just deaded whatever was going on and got to this. So Lucy Pearl, again, just being open to the conversation, to the experience. And Raphael's like a big brother to me. And actually, that wasn't supposed to be Dawn Robinson. That was supposed to be D'Angelo. But he was working on Voodoo, and he just he couldn't commit at the time. So if you guys really study Raphael Sadiq, he thinks a lot. You can see it, and just like you hear it in the music, but if you really look at him, you see the thought process in every Tony album. And you look at those records. If you look at their stage performances, if you look at what he's doing on his solo thing, like, he thinks. And Lucy Pearl was just like him thinking and going, "I'm gonna shoot it out there, tell me what you think." And when he said the words, it was just like, let's do it. And the rest is history on that. So you just got to be open, you know. I often, in DJing around the world, I have, I'm thankful and blessed to even be able to still do this thing that I love to do. But I have some diehard hip-hop heads who don't want to hear Lucy Pearl. They don't care about Maroon 5. They could care less about anything. Just keep it hip-hop, period, point blank. And in this particular era, thank you very much. I'll have a good night. And if not, there's going to be a lot of fuck you notes left on your DJ booth. So, and I love that kind of situation because I'm like, well, that's not how I was raised. So if you hear my house, oh, man, you're going to get it because I'm going to play Talking Heads or whatever. You know, like, just that's what I do. I love music. So, you know, it's just me being me. Like, being in those situations is me being me, trying to, one, go against the rules, not do what everyone thinks I should do. That sort of thing. I'm very rebellious. It's to my detriment. It really is. I'm learning that now at 41, that I should stop being so rebellious against certain things and go with the flow. But there's just something in me that just goes, I know if I did that, that would be okay. But I want to be beyond okay. Okay is cool. But I just want to be at peace knowing, like, I push the limits in some capacity with the art form. You know, we are all given new canvases every day that the Creator lets the sun rise on us. You know, there's certain things we have to do that's somewhat conditioned in movement in your daily basis. But then there's other things that you can throw on that canvas that's just enlighten your life or someone else's life differently. So that's just how my approach to music is just like that.
Word up. So we're at the point where we're going to open up the floor for some questions from y'all. Is there anyone out there that has a question? Somebody's going to pass you the mic.
Just concerning the creative process, being that you've been involved so long in it, what are some of the things that have helped you push past like creative plateau? Like, let's say you've reached a point where you're like, man, like, I'm at the same place, I need to get through it. Should I just stop? Like, should I keep going? Like, what for you as an artist helped you to just push past that point?
Always being open to listening to different things. Like, I'm inspired by, people who come after me, and to not be closed off. Like, there are certain things I think that may irritate us all in certain areas of music and genres of music, but I still kind of keep that like, yeah, I don't like this business that's going on in this song, but this is something that's just like, wow, I didn't think about that, and studying that sort of thing, what someone else is doing. Um, Sometimes it's like I said, it's mistakes. I just had actually 2 weeks apart. Like, I lost a hard drive just 2 weeks ago, and I was in Toronto and doing this John Legend session, and it was just like the first time I was sitting with him, and I'm like, my hard drive is gone. Like, what on earth are we gonna do now? Like, I back everything up, but the backup is in Brooklyn, and I just wanted to just leave and be like, yo, sorry, B, you just came to Toronto for nothing. Sorry, but I lost inspiration, but the creator's like, nah, you're gonna get through it. And I actually made a banging joint for him. So, with him and my boy Doc. So there's just little things that happen in life, and you just gotta have to look at them. And when you're having a cloudy day, look at something different and go, yeah, it's raining over here, but this rain may be bringing something that's beautiful that I'm just not aware of yet. Or it may be even too sunny. You're like, yo, too much sun. I need just a shade, but just to be aware and open. I don't know if that helps. Any other questions?
Got one right here. First of all, it's an honor to hear you speak, and it's really inspirational. Tribe was the reason I got into hip hop, and
Thank you.
I remember before Midnight Marauders came out, like, I was waiting and waiting and waiting for it to come out, and I just remember like hearing you guys were having some trouble with sample clearance, things like that. I wonder if you could touch upon, I'm a producer myself, I wonder if you could touch upon like the dramas that you went through with all the samples that you guys used, where that sits now, and also where you're at now when you create music, and do you trip on worrying about sampling? Do you have certain rules that you use, things like that?
The nightmares of samples still haunt you. Like, it's any musician who's really making a living off of the music, they're like 2 vital months you rely on when you're not touring, especially. And that's, what is that? Like March, April-ish, and September, October, because that's when your royalty checks come. And just last year, I saw a huge depletion for some samples from 15 years ago. And I was really relying on that check. So those are the lessons you learn, and you could not have known that back then. So you still get knocks on the door saying, you used our music, and especially with the documentary, it's just turning the spotlight on us a little bit more, and it's like someone's grandson is now like 18, 19, and they're a hardcore digger, and they're like, yo, granddad or grandma, that's your joint. Like, we need to just, we're all friends, let's work it out. And you're like, oh, yeah, we're gonna work it out. So those things are still happening. And back then, it didn't discourage us. It just made us want to go, all right, they're on to us, or okay, we got to do this. We have to clear this. Let's figure out a way to get around it. So you start chopping up your samples and just, manipulating them. Loved when that filter came, when that MPC, like the filter was just like, thank you, God. Especially back then, the filter was like you covered some things up and no one could really identify it unless they was, doing what you were doing. So technology, I guess, helps cultivate the whole sampling thing. But, and also it inspired me to really pick up playing bass seriously, and then moving on to guitar and moving on to the piano and drums. And that's the rhythm section, and for hip hop that's really all you need. So it has allowed me to kind of like say, okay, I do want, and God willing, I don't have any children, but I'd like to have children. I want them to be able to eat off of this, and they're not going to eat as much if I sample everything. So let me find a way to be inspired, because it's always been inspiration. First needle to the groove was just because I was a kid listening to the records like this, like, man, what are they thinking about? What are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? And I'm still like that, like, what are they doing? And I challenge myself because I can easily just throw the needle to the groove, chop it up, and I'm like, nah, there's emotions, there's more stuff happening here. So it forces me to play and explore my own self. And guess what? I made that no samples and someone's going to sample you sort of a thing. So it's just like keeping the conversation of music moving forward. And I get a lot of criticism, like, from my loved ones, like, why you not sampling? Like, I mean, like home loved ones, like it's better when you sample, that, right? You really do know that. Like, why you, that's that right there. Like, why do you go over here? And I did explain that I kind of like to go against the grain and go against what I'm supposed to do. So I'm aware of it, and I don't know how to get around it, but it's a struggle.
There we go. You emphasized earlier about building up your team, and even when you produce things yourself, it said produced by a tribe called Quest. And one of the things I always wondered, even with the albums, what was the dynamic between you, Tip, Fife, Jerobi, and even when Dilla came into the creative process for the last two albums? How'd you guys play off each other, and how was the dynamic when creating those records?
It's an awesome kind of an energy. It's like, how do I explain this? I went to a concert a couple of months ago, and I saw Gary Clark Jr. play. There were only two people on the planet I wanted to call and go, oh my God. So Q-Tip was one and Raphael Sadiq was the other. So there is just people who you have that sort of, like, you don't really have to say much. It's just like you're there, you're vibing, you're thinking the same thing. So it was a lot of fun. Jerobi is extremely funny, and he and Fife together are like Abbott and Costello. And they greatly entertained us. It was just like, it's just a love affair, really. I don't know how to explain it. And when, the creator blessed us to get Dilla's demo, that was just like, he came at the right time, because we were at a point where, not that everything was routine, but there were certain aspects of our life that was just so routine. And we needed something to push us a different direction. Had we kept going this way, only the creator knows, and I think that's why Dilla came in and gave us that, like, sort of resuscitated us a little bit. And he completely, it's like he was inspired by us, but he had his own everything, his own universe. And yeah, he was in our world, but it was more like we were in his world, because it was just like, how's he coming and do this so quick? Like, we're sitting here for hours just, chopping, doing all this, and Dilla would just come in and boop, 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 boom, and go back upstairs, and you're like, we've been sitting here for weeks and months trying to achieve that, what he just did in minutes, So that was fun, because it was sort of like a competitive kind of pushing each other on in a very positive way. And, it was just a great environment, great experience. Thank you.
Word. So,
Minus,
yeah,
you
no,
got a question? Just a couple more questions.
Oh yeah, we gotta
move on.
We gotta wrap it up, B.
Okay.
But in parting, yo, man, thank you for coming and speaking, and because watching the documentary, we didn't get to hear you speak, so it's like good to get you in this forum to actually speak your clout. You know what I'm saying? And
Thank you. I was told that I had the opportunity. No, not that I had the opportunity. That actually I was shown, and what I said was enough. So I didn't have to speak more. So thank you for giving me an opportunity in a forum to speak a little bit more. I don't like speaking, but I actually do love the sharing of knowledge and I kind of had said to you guys, I'd rather like we set up some stuff and like we can have a back and forth kind of exchange. Like, this is how you program, this is how I program. Like, I'm that kind of dude. I love this sort of interaction. It's more important than talking about like other things I think people want to talk about. I'm just really about like really sharing knowledge. So thank you for giving the Red Bull Music Academy, the Bulls, anyway. Nah, I just heard a story about, what's his name? Is this Dimitri Dietrich, like the owner? Like he has like this could be a rumor. I don't know if anyone here from Red Bull knows and is cool with the NDA and they can share this information with me about like he has like this property in Austria that's like really super amazing and has, I don't know if there's like water and all this stuff. And have you been there? Oh, I'm just really interested. I'm really interested in a whole I've never had a Red Bull, but I'm just really interested in the company. It is a billion-dollar company that celebrates energy and people doing things, and they're doing a positive thing. Like this whole, I'd like to see more exposure on the Red Bull site for the Red Bull Music Academy.
Right.
Personally, I mean, there's a lot of other things on that website. I would love to just see a link for the Red Bull Music Academy, because what you guys are doing for hip hop specifically is awesome and empowering, and it needs to really they need to get the message.
Well, it's RedBullAcademy.com. They got their own space.
Which you got to do that. Like when you're not given certain things, you got to just be like, yo, I'm going to take this record here, back it up here, and then take this record here and back it up there. I don't need my drummer. I just got my own drum beat going. So you have to do those things. But at some point, you're going to really want support to move and advance. Like we're trying to advance the culture. So it would be dope to have like a Red Bull Music Academy link on the Red Bull website. That's all I'm saying.
And on that note, we want to thank Ali Shaheed Muhammad for coming and speaking with us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.